So, verse 8, therefore, I urge y'all to reaffirm your virtue love for him. Now, this is directed towards the leaders of the congregation. Again, I mentioned two types of forgiveness: the personal forgiveness and the congregational forgiveness. This is not the forgiveness of the Lord. The Lord has already forgiven him because he's used 1 John 1:9. He's a believer. Phase 1, his sins have been forgiven in the past. Phase 2, he has used 1 John 1:9. But now people have to do their application. And I mentioned two types of application as far as the Corinthian believers are concerned. Personal, because each person has to apply their own problem-solving devices to forgive such a person whenever they see him at the church. And that's why I mentioned Matthew chapter 7, the sins of the tongue. If you don't forgive someone, you're going to malign him, you're going to judge him, etc. And then the congregational forgiveness is for the leaders, specifically for the leaders, so that they can accept him back into the church. And so this one is individual forgiveness, and this one's a collective forgiveness. And now, this mandate is both personal and congregational, both individual and collective. Therefore, I urge y'all to reaffirm virtue love and personal love for him, to him. And this is a mandate to the leaders of the church. Bring him back. He's already been forgiven by God. And this is a mandate also to believers personally. You have to love and personally the person. Forgive. Okay. Verse 9 now. The NIV reads, it says, okay. Another reason I wrote you, was to see if you would stand the test and be obedient in everything. And so, another reason I wrote you, okay. Nope. Verse 9. So we have for, gar, post positive, and this is explanatory for, but we're going to go with and, because I'll tell you right now. And then we have eis, plus the accusative of hutos, the accusative neuter, this thing, for this thing, and now we're going to translate it and for this purpose, and to this purpose. What purpose is talking about this? To accept him back, but is going to mention it by means of a test. For this purpose, guy, this is adjunctive also, and the main verb finally, egrapsa. This is the aorist active indicative of grapho. I wrote. In the aorist tense, punctiliar goes back to the moment that he wrote this letter, 2 Corinthians. For this reason I wrote. The active voice, Paul, produces the action of the verb, and the indicative mood is the reality of them having the second letter, 2 Corinthians, and us having it. And so, and for this purpose I also wrote. So this is another reason why he wrote. What was the first reason he mentioned that he wrote? Oh, the first reason why he did not go to Corinth was to spare them. Sparing you, because sparing y'all, I no longer went to Corinth. And instead he wrote a letter, and we benefited from that second grace. And so now we have here another reason why he wrote to them instead of visiting them. He wrote to see if they approve the test. And let us go on. Hina, this is hina plus the subjunctive of purpose. This is a purpose clause. And for this purpose I wrote, so that, and then we have here the present active, the aorist active and subjunctive of ginosko, so that I might know. And the aorist tense is a culminative aorist. Yes, perceiving the whole action, perceiving the whole process of knowing into one entirety, but emphasizing it or regarding it from the result of knowing what level of growth they are in. The active voice, Paul produces the action of the verb of evaluating the believers through a little small test. And this is the test of accepting him back, of loving the man of incest, of forgiving him. And the subjunctive mood goes with hina, which serves as the purpose clause. It's a probability. Will they forgive? Will they pass the test? So that I may know, and then thein, here's the accusative, direct object, dokimein, the articular of dokime. And so we've seen this verb before, dokimatsu. This is testing for the purpose of approval. We've seen beiratsu before in 1 Corinthians chapter 10. Beiratsu, it means to test someone or to tempt someone. But dokimatsu, as the verb, means to test for the purpose of approval. And here dokimein is having approval. It means the character after being approved. And so we're going to translate that, just that. Standing a test? No, we're going to translate it character. The character that results from passing the test. So that I may know, so that I might know your character. Humon, this is the genitive of su, the genitive of possession. Your character. So the character is tested through this test of whether they're going to accept the man or not, whether they're going to forgive him or not, whether they're going to have mental attitude sins or not. Are they able to forgive him? And this is the character test at this moment. Character, what is it? Virtue, love. It is the love test that they have to pass. And us, by way of application, we're also going to be put in situations where we're going to have to forgive a person and he did something terrible to us, or maybe he did it every single day, and you have to forgive him. If God has you there for a purpose, and he has not removed you from such a person who's harming you every day, it is for a purpose. It is a test. Congratulations, you have the honor of undergoing pathema of Christ, suffering for blessing, suffering of Christ. And so, yes, we're going to have that test. Okay, and then we have here a first-class condition if, and we assume if, and it's true, we assume that it's true, if, but this is an idiom, and we're going to translate it whether. Whether y'all are este. So we have a present active indicative of me, second person plural, y'all are. And so you expect a predicate nominative. The subject is implied inside of the verb, second person plural, y'all are. And then we have here the predicate nominative. Hupeiko'oi. We've seen this verb here, hupaku'o. Aku'o means to hear, to listen. That's where we get the word acoustics from. But hupo, the preposition, is under, to listen under authority, and it turns out to be something like obey. Obey. And so, here is obedient. Whether y'all are obedient. Obedient. And then ace plus the accusative of pas is directional. With reference to all things. This pas is not in the nominative, it's not in the feminine, it's in the neuter. So pas in the nominative becomes all men. Pas in the feminine becomes all women or all things, all nouns that are in the feminine. And then in the neuter, it's all things. All things, all doctrines. Okay. So now we have a translation. And for this purpose, I also wrote that I may see, that I might see. Might, yes, because it's in the past. He wanted to see this before. That I might see the character, your character. Whether y'all are obedient with reference to all things or in all things. So now we have this translation here. So many of us are going to go through the test, and that's going to be a character test. We're going to be put in a situation that we're not going to like around people that we do not like. God does remove us from certain people, and there are mandates that command us to remove ourselves and separate ourselves from certain people. But there are going to be situations where you're not going to be able to separate yourself from them because it's going to be a test. And God has you in there for a reason, because it is his will for you to be tested and suffer a little bit of pathema. And that's going to be a character test For the Corinthians, this is what it was. The character test of accepting such a man back.